Good evening, everyone. 1 second. Can you hear me back there, Steve, as well? Cool. All right, I'm going to officially call the meeting to order. If I can ask, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We will go through the roll call. Bill Comiskey, James Rath. Here. Suzanne Stone. Here. Anthony Mon. Present. And Robbie Egan also present. Sarah is absent today. We discussed just before the meeting, but minutes from the February meeting have not yet been provided. We will receive those over the next couple weeks and have those to approve at the April commission meeting. Moving on. Okay, so today's meeting only has a few items on it. We have two items under consent for PLPC 2021-0067, 2021-0034, and there is that it? One zero. For anyone on Zoom or in attendance today, there were previously two agenda items, 0011 for 625 7th Avenue and 2023-0009 for 21 First Street, the YWCA project. Both of those have been taken off the agenda and moved for the April Troy Commission meeting. So just in case you hadn't heard that and had come to speak on those, we have moved those out of this meeting's agenda.
And also 504 Broadway.
Oh, another one? Yep, that's right. Old business item, PLPC 2023-0004, 504 Broadway was also moved to the April meeting. So again, just a few items for tonight's meeting. I'll start with the couple consent items. Both of these we've discussed before. I think if others are okay, I do want to at least talk about the bargain block one. And I know we got a question about portions of the project, whether certain parts are still moving forward or not. But regarding the 26 New Turnpike Road, that one was fairly recent that we had reviewed it, and I'd be ready to take action on it if others are.
Is there any public comment on the 26 Turnpike? Sorry, guys. Yeah, so in the past, this 26 Turnpike with National Grid, I kind of was a little on the edge about the landscaping, and I was talking in the past with them, and they've kind of cut back all vegetation from the road. And I don't see any updates as far as what we kind of discussed in the last meeting as it pertains to kind of shading this thing from the street. And then maybe paving the aprons like they are now existingly.
I am not sure if you're able to hear me, but I'm unable to hear the council chambers right now. It seems muted.
Yeah, they're muted. I can hear you, but they're muted. I don't know what's going on.
Test, can you hear? Hello,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
great, awesome. So you heard the response I offered?
I didn't hear anything you said. Essentially, the previous plan submission that they put forth the board, I had lots of questions as regards to the landscaping and kind of shading this thing from the street, as well as not having a complete stone apron on the front, because currently it is paved. The fence is also going from like a 6 foot to an 8 foot fence with barbed wire on it. So I just was kind of like, if there was a way to replace the greenery that was already in kind of the existing structure, as far as pine trees or that were there prior. And we kind of also discussed lighting, when the lights would be on, and all that other stuff, because the light that's there now currently is on 24 hours a day.
So I would ask you, Jessica, I think you're the applicant with this proposal. Would you mind addressing the comment, and then I can offer what I had previously said on it?
Sure. So yes, my name is Jessica Leese. I'm internal counsel at National Grid, permitting counsel. As far as the greenkeeping plan that was accepted by the board at the September, there was clearing in preparation of construction for the site, but we do have an approved landscaping plan that is going into place when we actually do the construction for this site. So right now it's just in a holding period. We're waiting, basically the delay was due to asset delivery. So we're hoping to get construction going in August. I may need a minute to get back to you on that. I'm just looking at my prior notes, but I thought this was more security lighting.
I think in general, the answer just was to the applicant is seeking an extension of their approval and haven't, they may have started clearing in preparation for it, but the construction work proposed has not been installed yet.
I was in attendance at the September meeting, and I know that Aaron was still kind of in the loop with things. And the way we kind of left the approval was that they were going to submit a landscape plan and get that approved, or kind of let the city look at it. I'm not sure when this landscaping got approved. There's basically 5 trees that have been added on either side of it, not so much to shadow it from the actual road like it existingly was built.
So previously, the initial plan was for us to submit a landscaping. The initial approval was subject to us later submitting a landscaping plan. So the initial approval, I believe, was in 2020 or 2021. But at the most recent meeting in September of 2022, the revised plan with the landscaping approved. I watched that via Zoom, and there were no comments from the public or anyone at that time about any other implementation of landscaping. So I believe any comments addressed the initial plan, which we did then subsequently revise. And now we're seeking an extension of the revised plan that was approved in
Has the city received?
Basically, I took the same packet from September, applied it today. My understanding is that the image that you see on the current packet is the revised plan. Jessica could probably confirm that.
Jessica, do you have a revised, that's 2021.
And I see the points that Joe is referring to. I don't know if this is.
They should still see 2021.
When was it submitted?
That was submitted. I believe that was in August of 2022.
And we previously discussed this item in which month?
It was September 2022, and it was just on the consent agenda for that month because the
Right.
city had already
So
accepted the plan. So their approval, it looked originally November 2021, and it was conditional on submitting landscaping and lighting plans to the city, which city staff were charged with approving. We put it on the consent agenda because we were treating it more or less just as an extension of their approval, subject to the conditions which had been satisfied at that point.
So we're good essentially with the landscaping plan because city staff.
Correct. And I'm guessing reviewed and approved those.
Yeah, Aaron was supposed to, I mean, Aaron said he would email them to me and whatever, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, he's not here to discuss that. I just think we only got one opportunity to build this thing and make it feasible in our neighborhoods, and the fence going up higher and this thing becoming double in size with no landscape in front of it doesn't make it characteristically friendly for the neighborhood. Live in.
So I'll look to the commissioners. I mean, do we want to reopen this and look at the landscaping plan and discuss more?
That was the worst. Another email with the.
What our capabilities are tonight to address those concerns, as it is an extension. Additionally, I would just say if the applicant was, willing to address those.
I left before with the initial meeting was, the same way, like, oh, they're gonna come back with this landscape plan. Aaron was gonna kind of like, hey, does this look okay? And then come to find out it all got approved already. And I'm like, how did that? I never got any of that information. So that's, I guess, where we're kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's just, there was prior, like I said, evergreens in front of this facility. I understand everything's been cut down and I see things progressing, but I just, like I said, it just doesn't fit such a characteristics that I think would support the neighborhood, and then being twice as big as it is. But I understand we have to have it. I just, there's a way to screen it a little better. That's kind of what I'm asking for. And I think that's what we initially discussed back in February. And the board all heard it. And so I guess if it got approved, maybe, I don't know if everybody was really privy to what the discussion was prior on this substation.
Andy, did you have to?
Yeah, so
Chime
as I understand it, this was approved. Then it was subsequently extended. At one point, there was a condition that a suitable landscaping plan was going to be reviewed and approved, and that review and approval authority was delegated to Aaron as the city engineer. It sounds like, but that was part of the original approval. So to my mind, whether or not that has occurred is only relevant to the question of whether or not they've complied with the conditions of their approval. It wouldn't be pertinent to their request for an extension of the approval this evening. So you can extend the approval. That's not going to change the fact that they were required to submit a landscaping plan to be approved by the city engineer. And if that hasn't occurred, that still must occur. And it also sounds like, based upon what Mr. Johnson said, there was also some type of representation that would also be provided to him, so he had a copy of it or could review it. It doesn't sound like that happened either. So confirmation of the fact that the submitted landscaping plan was approved by the city engineer, I think, is required. And I also think a copy should be provided to Mr. Johnson, because that's what was promised to him. But both of those items can be confirmed independently of their request for an extension this evening. Extending them for another 6 months doesn't change their requirements to submit that landscaping plan and get it.
Could we also separately condition our reapproval on a different review of the landscaping plan?
I don't believe so. This is for an extension of time of the originally approved plan. They're not asking for it to be reevaluated. If you wanted to reevaluate the original approved site plan, I think it would require you to deny the extension and require the applicant's time.
Okay, so I think, I mean, to me, that means our choices are we either take a vote and we would be straight approving an extension on it, or if you vote against it, you'd essentially be putting the process back to site plan approval for the project.
May I be heard on behalf of the applicant?
Yes,
Hi, so this is Jessica Lease again. So it is my understanding that the planning department did approve what we submitted, because this was updated plans from our original submission in 2021. And we had submitted them in August of 2022, and were informed that at that point we were past the 6 months point of our initial approval, and that is why we needed to go back before the board. So my understanding was that when we were appearing that point, that was for consideration of our updated landscaping plan. And at that point it was being approved, and now we're merely just seeking an extension of that. But my understanding was at that time that in September that the planning department had reviewed the
If I may, If I may, I think there may be a third option that you may want to consider. This is a request for an extension of time. They've submitted it, I would assume, within the 6-month period. You do have the ability to continue the application until next month. That will give staff the time to confirm that the landscaping plan was submitted and approved by the city engineer's office. And if it was, it'll also give the ability to provide it to Mr. Johnson, as was promised. And once you have all those confirmations, you can bring it back next month. All these other outside issues are resolved, and you can consider the extension on its own merits.
Thank you, Andy. Eric, I went into the drive to look. I'm seeing that you added two different lighting plans. I'm not seeing a different one for landscaping. So I guess I'm inclined to take that third option and allow some time for staff to look at the landscaping specifically, as that's a pivotal issue on this.
Going back to one of the other options that Andy suggested or provided was that, granting the approval of the extension does not excuse the applicant from providing that new updated landscaping plan to be approved by city staff. And I hear the concerns of the public, and I'd like to see those addressed. I'd like to see a new updated landscaping plan. I trust the city staff to be able to review that plan and approve it themselves, just as we discussed at the prior extension. And I hope that the applicant can address those concerns. They seem pretty minor. They seem pretty easy to address. And they could do that in an updated landscaping plan quite easily. And I don't personally feel the need to, have them come back again. I think we could, please or address the concerns with allowing them to move forward with an extension.
Eric, would you be willing to coordinate with Joe on getting plans to him and maybe get comments from him?
Absolutely.
Okay. So any other comments from the commissioners? With James? Sure. So want to form a motion?
Yeah, I would just like the applicant to chime in and make sure that's agreeable as well. I think that would be helpful for me to hear.
Sounds like what you're proposing is that we would take a vote and you would be open to approving an extension. So I imagine they'd be amenable to that.
Yeah. My motion would be to, essentially. Oh, I don't know. I might need Andy's help here, but to approve the extension with and maintain the condition that was previously approved at the last extension. It's a little clunky, but that the applicant would provide the landscaping plan to city staff.
That all previous conditions have been met.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will, if, oh, you wanted to.
Jessica, can you just, is that agreeable for you?
Yes, absolutely. My one concern is that I don't have the engineers on the call with me this evening. I apologize. They did attend at the last September 22 meeting to address any questions that came up on the revised plan. But if the feasibility of not being able to put additional plantings in because of issues with the security and interference with the utility structures, if that becomes an issue to the extent that we need to limit or not even capable of putting in plantings in the front along New Turnpike Road, I would need to check with the engineers of what any restrictions are. But if there are restrictions on our end because of the safety of the utility structures, is that something that we would then discuss with the planning department and figure out with them something to come to an agreeable term?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two issues here. One is that there is apparently, or so our notes indicate, an approved plan that was approved by city staff at some point in August or September of 2022. And if that exists, we want it to be provided to Mr. Johnson, which Eric can facilitate. And if you're now saying that there might be issues with complying with the plan that was approved by city staff, well, that raises the question of whether you're going to go forward with some kind of revised plan and city staff would need to approve that plan.
I think they're also saying, and Jessica can clarify, but I think they're saying they'll look into addressing the concerns of Mr. Johnson, and if they can't address the concerns, how does that impact, that the approval of the landscaping plan? Which I think, as from my perspective is understandable. I mean, I would hope that they can find a way to address it. There are a lot of different plantings out there that they could utilize, but we understand the challenges with this piece of infrastructure.
Likewise up front, taking a look at the plans, I don't see that you would have any buried utilities feeding any of the equipment on the new Turnpike Road side of the yard. So I would be surprised to hear if you had an issue with installing some landscaping on that side. I could understand where it looks like you either have overhead lines tapping on I'm thinking that's southeast or east side of the fence line, but I would expect that you're going to be able to meet the intent of what that landscaping plan was supposed to do.
With that said, I'll make a motion to approve the extension with the previous.
You made the motion.
Oh, okay. I thought we were waiting.
Second.
Okay.
There's a second, okay, moving to a vote, Bill,
I'm in favor.
James,
Yes. to approve.
Suzanne, Anthony?
Yes.
I also vote yes, motion passes. The extension is granted.
Thank you.
Okay. That was 0067, moving to 0034 for the bargain block. The applicant's First Columbia. I think we have somebody here to present. You want to come up? So for the commissioners, they're seeking an extension of the approvals. In here, there's the 123 unit senior housing facility, loading dock and entrance to, I guess, I had heard some question about whether or not the grocery store, the bargain block grocery store was still a component of the project.
It is.
Okay, and so is there any difference in segmentation or composition of the project now? It's still a senior house, a rock gym, and a grocery store?
At its core, it's the same. I'm actually coming back in a month to do a change of use though for the 547 building where the rock gym is approved as an addition.
Okay,
When I first submitted in, it was we got approved in November of 21 for this mixed use project. The Flanagan building as it sat then was still commercial office. We found out since then county is moving out from those floors that they occupy. It's the second floor to the fourth floor, which made us pivot and say, we're going to look at retooling the building as an asset. So we decided we'd like to change the upper 4 floors and some of the first floor to multifamily, and then have commercial on the ground level and the basement that daylights out to the river on the backside. Going together with the rock gym that's already approved, we thought that was a better utilization of the asset going forward from where the neighborhood's moving in terms of growth and how we could strengthen the grocery store's performance across the street, being right there on the other side of river next to Vanderheim Street. But
So-
everything is still moving forward. I'm in the building department right now for the grocery store. We have a full set of construction documents under review right now. We're also waiting, part of the delay was getting through SHPO for both buildings on 547 and 558 are both getting historic tax credits. So I have to finish that process with the agencies that regulate that program.
okay. So to be clear, Andy, the extension we'd be granting would only allow them to proceed with the proposal as we previously viewed it. They would have to come back if given the change of use or for change of use, and also I would assume provide a revised site plan to show and revised application.
Which is underway right now. And we
Okay.
actually met with the planning staff on Monday to go through
So
those
the
changes.
extension now really only allows them to continue with what they had previously proposed.
That's
Right.
correct. And this would also apply to the last application. What it is they have a site plan approved. with conditions. It's been done by this board in the past. The code requires that the work commence within 6 months
Mhm.
of that approval, or they have to come back for an extension. So you granting the extension doesn't change the underlying approval in any way. It simply gives them more time to comply with it. If they're going to change any aspect of what was approved, they have to come back to you for a revision to the site.
Okay. So I'll look to the commissioners. Any other, did you guys have questions for the applicant? No. Okay. So I think this one's straightforward. I'll make a motion that we approve the extension. Looking for a second. Okay, Suzanne seconded. Moving to a vote. I'll just do all in favor.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Extension granted. Yep, thank you. Okay, so the last item on today's agenda is PLPC 2023-0010 for Northern Drive's discontinuance. This is similar to some of the items we had last month, Canal Street and whatnot. Steve, over to you.
All right, so this is a review or for a recommendation to the city council. They have a public hearing tomorrow scheduled for this discontinuance of Northern Drive. So this actually commenced about a year ago with a former engineer and myself up there looking at the area, speaking with the owners as the gas station to the north was looking to redevelop the Gendron site and put the convenience store in there, which has already been approved by the planning commission, but subject to if this changes and if this happens, they may come back for a modification to the plan. This Northern, I'm not sure how this Northern Drive section initially started, if that's the route that Northern Drive took before 125th Street was created. We really didn't look into that too much, but underneath that, there is a city water main, which there needs to be an easement for that with whatever happens. So basically this there's a awkward 5-way intersection there as you're coming down Northern Drive. It really is not a good presentation or welcoming to the city or to Lansingburg as you come down the hill. If you go to the next picture on the slide, and I'll probably go back. So you can see this is looking from the northeast, I guess, and you can see it's a road. There's no sidewalks there. There's a very wide section of street and gravel there. And it really doesn't present itself very well. So the plan would be basically to abandon this and offer it up for sale. Initially, we had the owners to the north and the south that were interested in purchasing it. They wouldn't be able to build anything on the street, but they could put paving there, landscaping there. The easement would have to remain in effect. There's not a lot of purpose to the street, although people do use it. So I've sat there a number of times in the morning looking at it. And what's really interesting here is people trying to get to New Turnpike School coming up Fifth Avenue to your left there if they're coming towards us. Instead of continuing to 125th Street to make the left turn and then the right turn, they will turn left and do the hairpin turn back on Northern Drive and then turn right on New Turnpike. And that's mainly because the two traffic signals at New Turnpike and 125th, as well as Fifth Avenue and 125th, really need to be upgraded, improved, and better timed. So there's kind of a log jam there. So that's how people avoid the log jam. They could continue to avoid the log jam by turning up 124th Street and then over to New Turnpike to continue north. There's also, and I spoke with the Lansingburg School District this morning, they do use Northern Drive as a bus stop to get basically to get off of the street. There's no reason, though, when I spoke to the transportation person, that they couldn't do the bus stop on Fifth Avenue and then continue south and around and up. So there are options for the public. There is not, other than those few vehicles during rush hour taking that shortcut, it's not a high traffic flow. So it's not going to really impact any traffic at any of the intersections. Aaron Vera, the engineer at the time when we looked at this, he said there's really no need for a traffic study to implement this. Housing that is on New Turnpike, yes, they would lose one access point, but they still would have a north access point and a south access point to their property. And while it would be, I'm sure, an inconvenience to them driving if they're coming from the northeast, I think the enhancement to the neighborhood would more than make up for that with their property values and the walkability of the area. Again, the intersection is 5-leg. The traffic light would probably function better with the removal of that leg. And the pedestrian walkability of the area would increase as well.
Steve, was there any exploration of alternatives to the water line, the water main that runs through there? Is there no other way that could be routed or removed from there so as to enable or allow for construction on the property?
No, it's a very big main water service line.
That's the one that comes down, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
from-
That's the big one. So when speaking with the Department of Public Utilities, no, they have no interest in doing that, no money to do it. They would want to keep the easement. And again, the properties to the north and the south, or if it only turns out being the property to the north, aren't interested in building facilities there. They're interested in just enhancing the landscaping of their property.
Steve, just to clarify, this is between Fifth Ave and what's listed as, I'm seeing as New Scotticoke Road or New Turnpike Road. It's not Fifth Ave all the way to Fourth Ave.
No, it's just that one highlighted red. If you go back to the previous slide again, Eric. It's just that one diagonal block there between New Turnpike, or I'm not sure, what the name of the road is there, but it's New Turnpike Extended or and Fifth Avenue. And then actually now, Eric, if you go down 2 slides. So that's from this one here, that's looking at it from the west. And you can see, it's just an expanse of asphalt. And if you go to the next slide again, this is what it used to look like. Looks like I cut off part of the picture. Back when it was a car dealer, it was just stacked with cars there. But I think there's a real opportunity here to make an aesthetic improvement to Lansingburg.
I just pulled up the traffic counts the counts from DOT are from 2019, so pre-pandemic, probably a little bit higher than we would see today, and they're under 500 cars per day, which is absolutely minuscule.
And I think I got like 12 to 15 in the hour that I was there. It was not a lot. And it was mostly the zigzag people going north.
So as we did with the last batch, I think we're supposed to provide any suggestions for the improvements, if any, although it sounds like right now you're really just looking to discontinue the road and allow it to be sold.
Yes,
So-
so the city council would discontinue it, then they would declare it surplus, and
Yeah.
then they would offer it up for public sale. And most likely anybody could buy it, but most likely it would only be the buyers to the north and the south. But
So a little different than the Canal Street where you had plans and development planned for it. So,
And then it was a public project.
right. Although you may want to
Is there,
recognize that the city
I'm just
council.
wondering if there's any public comment. I'm sorry.
There will be. There's so the where was I? I'm sorry. I think you might want to have the recommendation that the city at some time look at the traffic timing or upgrades to the signals at 125th and Schoharie, because they are, again, it backs up and there's really no reason that it should be backing up like that.
Can you clarify that when the property is sold and the new owners want to make changes, will they be required to come back for a site plan approval?
They would be required to come back for a site plan approval. It's a modification to their plan. It's a new property. Yes, they would.
Okay, thanks.
any other commissioner comments? Steve, when is there a separate public comment session that you're planning to hold, or are you looking for that to occur during? our
The
meeting?
city council has a public hearing tomorrow night
Okay.
scheduled already. And that's, I think, I'm not sure how most people here know about that, but it's already scheduled for tomorrow night.
Okay, so I don't think we'll plan to do public comment during our meeting unless you guys have some desire to for it.
Right
Well,
now?
And we have members of the public who came to speak. I think we
do.
may as well let them.
If,
Yeah, I
if there is anybody.
Somebody spoke up.
Yeah, I'm here. So this is Joe Johnson. I live up that way and I understand. I see Steve's points on what he had mentioned about this parcel. And I think the key object that we're missing, and I know he talked to the school, about that. Buses can't really make that right-hand turn to get down the turnpike, with cars being where they are. And I understand what he's saying as far as upgrading traffic signals. I'm just thinking this is a little soon, knowing that the rest of the traffic devices in the city of the city are an atrocity right now. And I think this is just gonna be something that is gonna hinder not only school buses heading towards Turnpike, trying to take a right on New Turnpike, with that sharp corner and the telephone pole there. That street is also a one-way, that goes the opposite direction, from that intersection that we're discussing.
Joe, I'm having a little bit of a hard time following you. You're talking about a right-hand turn. Can you just describe where that turn is originating?
Right, so if we remove this section of Northern Drive, where the buses would normally take a left, they stack up probably 4 or 5 buses in that little shortcut that we're discussing right now. If you remove that shortcut of Northern Drive, that small section behind the gas station, the buses now have to continue to 125th, take the left, and then they have to take that sharp right onto New Turnpike Road, which has a telephone pole on the corner. It's a very sharp turn. I just don't think it's going to work for transportation. Maybe they can reroute the buses, but if they're coming down Fifth Avenue, they're heading straight to the school. I see it every day. There's 5 or 6 buses stacked up behind that gas station to take a straight run across New Turnpike, because that road is a one-way road. There is no coming up that road to get into that 5-way intersection that we're discussing.
Okay, just so I understand, you're saying they're heading southbound on Fifth Ave. They're going across 125th. They're making a right onto Northern Drive and then a right onto the I guess what is New Turnpike Road, and then crossing over 125th again, heading north to New Turnpike Road.
Yeah, so they would come south on Fifth Avenue. They take a left on Northern Drive, which is this section you're talking about deleting, and then they take a right on to call it New Turnpike Road Extension to sit at the light to go straight across. So the alternative now to the bus would eventually have, they would have to go all the way south to the light. They would have to take a left on 125th and then a sharp right onto New Turnpike to head towards New Turnpike Elementary School as they came south. And that corner right there is very tight. I mean, I don't see how that works. And, with the traffic signals already being the way they are throughout the city, I'm not trying to give everybody a hard time here, but I don't know if this is the time to do this.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just looking for the telephone pole that you're describing. If again, it's a little tricky for me to follow exactly what movement you're describing.
There's a yellow house on the corner of Turnpike and 125th. It sits probably about maybe 2.5 feet off the road. So there's some kind of metal pole or barrier on that, whatever you want to call it right there. I take that turn every day to go home.
I believe he's saying no going north on Fifth Avenue. He was saying going south on Fifth Avenue.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, north would be north. Yeah, we're going north on Fifth Avenue, heading towards this intersection. There's a yellow house that sits on the corner of 125th and New Turnpike. That would be the turn that the buses would have to take at that.
Are we talking? Oh, is he talking about the sharp left onto the Northern Boulevard? And
So you're talking about here, right there. Is that what you're talking about? On the corner, on the northeast corner.
of that intersection.
I don't see the pole either.
Yeah, there's no pole there.
Oh, I see a
There's
little
there's
metal.
there's like a stanchion pipe or something there to protect the house.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm saying ultimately is it's no turn that a bus can take if a car is sitting right at that light.
My car is sitting at the light. Hmm.
So if a bus was parked on or really at the light on 125th and taking that right hand turn, that turning radius. Go ahead, Steve.
So I'm sorry if I could add in, that's what had said before, that their alternative would be to turn left on 124th and loop around. And then they're still stacked in there if they can, because no, I don't think anybody wants to do the 125th Street to the light to the right. So instead of taking the hairpin west on Northern and then the hairpin north on Turnpike, they would take a normal 90-degree left turn 1 block south at 124th Street and loop around.
And just come up New Turnpike.
Not, well, yeah, whatever New Turnpike, it looks like it's probably New Turnpike / Northern there.
Yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of different things you can do to alleviate that tricky turn. You could just narrow down the south side of the road, the lanes on the eastbound lanes on the road, and you could widen the lane on the westbound lane. That would be an easy way to do it. And you can move the stop bar back on the New Turnpike, so the cars queuing on New Turnpike heading south are further back. It looks like a pretty huge turning radius. So a bus, Joe, I hear your concerns, but I think there are a lot of ways around that, whether it's a different route or if it's just redesigning the roadway with some paint, really moving some lines.
Yeah, I mean, I would be on board with that if, the rest of the things that were going on throughout weren't the way they were, and that's, I guess, we're
Yeah,
putting the cart before the horse, like, there's just temporary flashing turn signals and wooden stop signs everywhere, and now we're gonna hinder traffic on the north end of Lansingburg right now. I mean, I guess I just don't know when is the intent to upgrade these traffic lights.
Yeah, I think we all live in the same city, so we all totally understand what your point is. But I think, I'd like to hear the other members of the public's comments as well too. If that's your only comment, Joe.
Are there any other members of the public here to speak or on Zoom? Anyone in person? By all means, please come up. Somebody here in person? Sure, if you wouldn't mind, just your name and general address or
Karen
street.
Delamater, 878 Fourth Ave. My house faces right exactly where the road would be shut off.
Okay.
Back of my house faces that way. And I just had a question as far as who, could anyone buy that if that went out there? I mean, because like we live right there. Was that an opportunity also to the residents? Or was it just the two businesses that were asked?
It would be offered out publicly for the city code, so anybody can put in an offer.
Okay. And I also see both sides of it as far as Joe's comments that he just had also with school busing. The school busing is going to be, because that is awesome, that road for that. And it is a one-way, so we don't see much traffic. Oh,
There
so
you
we
go.
don't, sorry, so we don't see much traffic there. I face the road and I'm home most of the time. So there isn't much traffic, but the buses, it does help so much. And I can see that. So I agree with Joe that taking that turn over there is awful. And the traffic is all backed up at that corner because if there's a bus involved, then that's probably all you can fit in there is when a bus takes a left turn to then take its right turn. That's all that. And there's so many buses going to that school in the morning and back and forth. So that is a big deal. And so again, I can see both sides of it with that. And I just came here really to listen and see what was going on. So, and be a part of it all and see if there was any opportunities out there to look at. And it wasn't just the businesses that were asked.
Given that you live right there,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on buses instead of queuing on that extension there that we're talking about taking out of service, having them use I think it's New Scotticoke Road portion of it
Mhm.
and that bend as it moves down back towards, is that Northern? Yeah, Northern.
Yes, and if the road was shut off completely, as what it looks like it needs to be done either way with the proposal, they would have to continue doing what they do now. That is not and I agree with Joe who is speaking, that's not a good thing. And there's a lot of accidents there. Because of that sharp right turn, as he noted. And these are school kids. So, you know, it is a big concern to everybody. What I think would happen if the road was shut off and nothing was done to those intersections is the buses would at that point take, if they were going north to go to the school, they would take a left and go 124th. And then at 124th, they would take a sharp right by Tesco's and take a sharp right and come right up past my house, which is right on the street that the road would be shut off. So they would be doing a loop. I think that somebody had mentioned, they would be doing a loop and coming past. So the traffic at that point, instead of the buses coming and making a loop where the road would then be shut off, they just go down a little bit further and come up the street and still take New Turnpike. That other cut is not good for those buses, and the bus drivers know that. There's so many accidents. They think they're gonna tip over. There's traffic coming this way on Turnpike, a lot of traffic at school time. So you got that traffic there. For a bus to be able to take a right on that corner, what they would have to do without this road, no, I
So-
don't think that they would do that.
Do you see 124th where they would take the left and then they would take a right onto
Yes.
Fourth and then
Mhm.
bend onto Northern? Where in that section through there, I wish I could control the mouse. Do you see there being an issue with people wrapping up through that bend? It's just kind of to the left of where your mouse is, down a little bit. So that's, yeah, if buses were to follow that route,
Yeah, that's
taking a
more-
right
yeah.
up through that bend.
Okay, so come to the gas station. Can you go back to the gas station? Oh, there we go. Yep, okay, yep, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about.
The school buses come to go pick up at Turnpike, which is up here.
Sorry,
I
yeah.
asked her to go over to.
The microphone actually has, you can take
Oh,
it. Yep.
thank you. Yeah.
Whoa.
Be careful.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so they come up here now and they're coming north to go pick up the children or drop them off. And they're coming here and they're at a street light here at the bottom of Northern. They have to wait for the light, then bear left, and then take a quick right here. The school's up here. So when they're headed that way, there's been a lot of ruckus here, them trying to get around because there's traffic coming this way.
Sure.
They can't make that cut. It is so hard for the bus drivers. So instead, they take a left here, which you can. It's one way going this
Yep.
way. So they take a left here and they come and they cut around. I live right on this block
Mhm.
right there. So they come around the front of my house to get this light to go up there. Easy. I mean, I could probably even drive the bus if I needed to do it that way. This way,
So
I agree.
instead of forcing the buses up all the way to 125th, if they came yes.
Yep, right
If
here.
they did that left, then took a right on,
They'd have
yep.
to come all the way down.
and Do you see that as being a viable?
They can't go this way. This
No, not
street
that
is,
way.
Right, right.
right.
You see that as viable though.
Yes, they'd have to take a sharp here instead of here.
And I think that's what Steve was proposing that the solution would be.
Yes, and they could do that. Yes, they just could not continue to do that.
Yeah.
And they won't, and I don't blame them. They have a bus full of kids, so.
full
I think
circle.
we're all ready to drive the bus now.
Yeah.
Route
There
down,
you
like
go.
send me out there tomorrow.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, so and either way, but I just came to hear more information on it all, to see what was going on, but thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Can I just make a recommendation based on what we went over? And just maybe we suggest that somebody talks with the district and the actual bus driver to see if that new route is a feasible route for a bus to go. I know it's going past like the bar that's there. I don't know what the cars look like on either side because I don't ever go that way. But, you know, I would just ask that maybe we look into that and see if the bus is able to actually run that route and make that sharp turn, because that is another sharp turn that's coming now essentially around and back up the Northern Drive, like we kind of arrowed on the mouse. I just would like to see the school district get involved and then obviously make sure that the kids get to school safe. And I don't want to leave buses in the middle of Northern Drive and 120 or Fifth Avenue and Northern Drive blocking intersections or causing a traffic jam at that intersection now because this road is gone and you can't stage buses in the northern portion that we're deleting.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, we could carry that as a recommendation as part of our thing.
I
Go ahead.
did speak with the transportation department about that option. And again, yes, you have a 90-degree turn, but you're getting rid of two 30-degree turns. So I think it's very easy for the buses to do that. He said it wouldn't be a problem and there are other options because like I said, they do pickups there on that short section in Northern. So they basically would do pickups instead on Fifth Avenue. And there's
It looks
room
like
there.
the turn at 124th and 4th is quite a bit wider than the one at 125th and New Turnpike. So it seems like that's going to be a better.
And less traffic coming the opposite way
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, a bus can 100% make that.
Yeah.
that turn.
Okay, I'd like to keep moving. Are there
Tractor trailer could too.
any other people from the public wanting to make comment in Zoom?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, my name is William Noble. I live across the street on Fifth Ave, 878 Fifth Ave. I kind of face directly across the person who was just speaking. All I wanted to say is my daughter actually grabs the bus. Just a couple things. Her bus route actually picks up at that intersection of 4th Ave near Kitty Corner Testos, 4th Ave. And the bus actually comes the route we're talking about. It comes north on 5th, makes a left on 124th. It picks up right at that corner, then it makes a right onto 4th, and it veers up the lower portion of New Turnpike we're talking about, not discontinuing. And then it veers left on the New Turnpike extension, then goes across. I'm not saying if all the buses did that, it would work. So I just want to mention that that's actually her route, how it goes in. I actually have seen multiple buses go that way also, coming in off 4th and 124th there from other directions too. They seem to come up that way if they're not coming from the east. But the only thing I wanted to say is, I mean, I just think it's the intersection, it's a gateway to the city, and obviously it's run down and looks very decrepit. And obviously this is trying to make it look better and improve everything, obviously. So I'm all for that. I agree with the buses. I think, they talk to the school and everything should work out and hopefully works out. But the only other thing I would mention that while I'm for it, just to improve everything and make it look better, the CDTA buses also, they do make that turn. I don't think many of their routes go down New Turnpike anymore, but it's worth looking into. They service I think they at least used to service the senior facility down in Pleasantdale. And I know they used to have a bus stop there on that corner of 125th and New Turnpike, and they struggle with that right-hand turn. And I know they use the same shortcut now. I think they even moved their bus stop to follow that double hairpin essentially at the same intersection of 125th and New Turnpike. If you look there, they actually moved their thing. So it's worth looking into that. You got to get CTA involved potentially. I don't know how heavily it's used, but I'm all for it. I just wanted to mention that just to provide my insight and listen in like the previous speaker said also.
So Bill, did you say, which turn did you say the CDTA was making? Is it the turn?
So they previously used to turn left at 125th and 5th. And then they made that incredibly sharp right at that 125th and New Turnpike. But I think recently, if you're on site at that same intersection, they'd make the double hairpin down. Their bus stop is, it's across the street from that yellow house with the stanchion in front that Joe had mentioned, almost to the left of your cursor, right there. That's their bus stop if you're going north. I think they do the same thing. I doubt you can see it here, but you might be able to see it. The bus stop is like right there. It's going north, so it's a little bit to your left.
Yeah, it's marked on my Google Maps right across, like you said, from that house on New Turnpike.
Right there.
Across to the west.
Yeah.
On the other
And
side.
I think they've analyzed it and said, hey, we can use this because it's one way in our favor and they can make that turn. And it just makes their life easier. I mean, years ago, I used to see it, not as much now, but the buses even the city buses get backed up there. And they're not backed up, but you can't, if there's a car on New Turnpike coming south, you can't make that turn unless they move. So it's just something to look into. But I mean, I'm all for the project just to help, make the gateway look better personally. But there's some things that they worked out. And I agree about the lights and all that stuff. The whole intersection, the striping, all that stuff's so bad.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other comments? Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, so action-wise, I can't remember how we did it last month, what the motion specifically was.
So the reason this is before you is because chapter 71 of the city code says that any official change to the official map requires a review by the planning commission and a report from you to the city council before the city council takes any action. So what we did last time is we issued the report. That's the full description of the report. So we're free to submit a report as we think is a sufficient report. So I would suggest you make the recommendation on the idea and then include any suggestions or thoughts that you may have that you may want the city council to consider, or you may want the city to consider, post discontinuance.
Okay, so I think that it would look something like a motion recommending approval to council of the discontinuance with some consideration due for the signal timing and replacement in the surrounding intersections. And I guess I would want to ensure that there's, a record from conversations with transportation, implying their approval of the concept. And then anything else you guys could suggest? Oh, striping.
Well, I would add, it's not just transportation, but it's a consultation with the folks who run the buses for the school district, establishing a route that's safe as an alternative. It should all be part of their consideration. But I think from our perspective, supporting the recommendation, it would be the right option because there are alternatives for the traffic that make sense. And the aesthetic improvement of getting rid of that parking lot of asphalt, it would be a great improvement for the neighborhood. I think the view from your house will look a lot better if it's green in a park or something like that. So in any event, I think it's the consultation with the school as well as transportation, city buses. That's something that we should recommend that they bring into the conversation, but we approve the concepts. Right.
Okay, so someone want to do it? I can try, or Anthony, looks like you're about to say something else.
No, I was just going to agree with Bill. I think that ultimately I'm in favor of the discontinuance, and it seems like there's some traffic concerns that are really separate, but it does seem like alleviating those traffic concerns would be good. And then in light of the discontinuance, will hopefully make the whole neighborhood a little bit more easier to navigate and more pedestrian friendly. And then, I think that getting an examination of alternate routes just to make sure that the effect on school transportation is not going to be negative. That seems like the only real direct impact of the discontinuance.
To me, it sounds like Commissioner Strickman has already been having that conversation. It sounds like the conversation's ongoing with the school district. So I totally agree with Bill's points. I think that from my perspective, this is the first step, and the traffic considerations in collaboration with CDTA, in collaboration with the school district to make sure they can better serve their students or improve their routing is something that follows. So my personal opinion is that we should recommend, we should make a positive recommendation for the discontinuance, and then all of the things that Commissioner Komisky and Mellon have stated would come after that approval.
Hard to recapture all of this now for a motion. Okay, so I don't know if you've been noting that, because it'd be convenient to say everything. Yeah. Okay, so
This is the discussion, really.
I'll take a stab at it. Is it even okay for other people to add in on a motion? Can multiple people form a motion together? This is a challenging one. Maybe you never got that.
Formally, the motion has to be made by one person under the rules of procedure, but engaging in a discussion to formulate the motion is something we do fairly routinely.
Yeah.
We say, okay, what he said. So the key is that Eric has the ability to capture it as you intended it to be written. That's the key.
Okay.
So I think
Go ahead.
Sure, I'll give it a try. So we move to recommend the discontinuance and that the city council approve discontinuing this stretch of roadway. We would also recommend that they have the city re-examine the signal timing at 125th and 5th. It was also 124th and 4th. Is that the other signal that we? 125th and New Scatica, New Turnpike or New Scatica.
Any affected route, the signal timing for any affected.
Right, and any other affected intersection. I think those might be the only two, but and then consult with the school district and CDTA regarding affected bus routes.
And also evaluate restriping to improve turning and control traffic flow. Anything else?
Are you gonna just add that in? What,
And what Rodney said.
second? I'll second.
Okay. Then moving to a vote, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the motion passes. And I believe that was our last agenda item.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.